The ancient tractor sputtered to a final, wheezing halt as Noah Collins slammed his palm against the dashboard. The foreclosure notice lay crumpled in his pocket, a ticking clock with only 30 days remaining. Little did he know, the woman he spotted trudging through the snowdrift ahead would change everything. Her designer boots were buried knee-deep in white powder, her frustrated curses carrying on the wind. As Noah trudged toward her, he couldn't have imagined that his calloused hands, about to dig a stranger's luxury car from the snow, would soon be signing contracts worth millions. The blizzard that threatened to take his family farm would bring an unexpected harvest, one that money alone couldn't buy. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Now, let's get back to our story of how one act of kindness in a snowstorm changed everything. Noah Collins stared at the ancient barn roof, watching as another shingle tore free in the wind and somersaulted into the growing snowdrifts. The blizzard had arrived earlier than forecast, just like everything else that had gone wrong this year. He stuffed his hands deeper into the pockets of his worn canvas jacket, fingers brushing against the foreclosure notice from Heartland Bank. 30 days. After 4 generations, the Collins family legacy would end with him in just 30 days. The wind howled across the Nebraska plains, driving ice crystals against his weathered face. At 35, Noah looked a decade older, his once boyish features now carved with lines of worry and hardship. 3 years of drought followed by this year's unexpected early frost had destroyed almost everything. The farm that had once produced enough to comfortably support his family now barely yielded enough to keep the lights on. "Dad! Dad!" His 10-year-old daughter Lily appeared in the doorway of their farmhouse, her red hair whipping wildly in the wind. "The weather alert says the storm's getting worse. They're closing the highways." Noah nodded grimly. "I was just coming in to check on you and Grandpa. How's he doing?" "He's telling me stories about when you were little," she said with a grin that momentarily lifted the weight from Noah's shoulders. "He says you once tried to ride the neighbor's prize pig." "Despite everything?" Noah laughed. "That pig threw me right into a mud puddle. Grandpa wasn't too happy about my Sunday clothes." His father, Frank Collins, had been the heart and soul of this farm until his stroke last year. Now confined mostly to a recliner by the wood stove, the medical bills from his ongoing care had been the final straw for their already precarious finances. Noah followed Lily inside, stomping snow from his boots. The farmhouse was old but warm, smelling of the vegetable soup simmering on the stove. Frank Collins sat in his recliner, a quilt over his knees and a book in his lap. At 70, his body had betrayed him, but his eyes remained sharp and knowing. "Storm's getting nasty out there," Frank commented, his speech slightly slurred from the stroke, but his mind as clear as ever. "Reminds me of the winter of '89. Noah hung his coat on the hook by the door. "That was the one where you had to dig a tunnel to get to the barn, right?" "That's the one. Your mother was pregnant with you. Thought for sure you'd be born right in the middle of that storm." Frank's eyes clouded briefly at the mention of Noah's mother. Gone now for 15 years to cancer. Lily climbed onto the arm of Frank's chair. "Tell me that story again, Grandpa." Noah smiled at them both, grateful for this moment of normalcy amid the chaos of their circumstances. He hadn't told them about the foreclosure notice yet. Tonight wasn't the time. Let them have their stories and soup while the storm raged outside. He moved to the window, peering through frosted glass at the white wasteland beyond. The old Collins farm sat a quarter-mile back from County Road 22, a rural stretch rarely traveled even in good weather. In this blizzard, it would be completely deserted, which was why the distant glow of headlights caught his attention immediately. "Someone's out there," he muttered, squinting to get a better look. The headlights were moving erratically, the vehicle clearly struggling in the deep snow. As Noah watched, the lights suddenly veered sharply, then stopped completely. "What is it?" Frank called from his chair. "Someone just went off the road," Noah replied, already reaching for his coat. "They'll freeze out there if I don't help." Frank nodded gravely. "Take the old snowshoes from the back porch. And the emergency kit." Lily's eyes widened. "Can I come too?" "Not this time, Firefly," Noah said gently. "I need you to stay with Grandpa. Keep the soup warm for when I get back." The bitter cold slapped Noah's face as he stepped outside. The storm had intensified, visibility reduced to mere feet. He strapped on the old wooden snowshoes that had belonged to his grandfather, hung the kerosene lantern from his belt, and slung a canvas bag containing emergency supplies over his shoulder. The journey to the road was grueling. The snow was already thigh-deep in places, and the wind tried repeatedly to knock him over. Noah kept the distant, dim glow of the vehicle's headlights as his beacon, trudging forward with the determined persistence that had characterized his entire life as a farmer. As he drew closer, he could make out the shape of a sleek, black SUV, its nose buried in a snowbank at the side of the road. It was an expensive vehicle, the kind rarely seen in this part of rural Nebraska. Through the driver's side window, he could see a figure moving inside. Noah tapped on the glass with gloved knuckles. The window lowered slightly, revealing a woman's face. She appeared to be in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun and alarmed brown eyes. "Are you hurt?" Noah shouted over the howling wind. "No, just stuck," she called back. "My GPS rerouted me because of the highway closure. Then I hit this patch of ice." "You can't stay here," Noah interrupted. "The temperature's dropping fast. My farm's about a quarter-mile back. You can wait out the storm there." The woman hesitated, and Noah could almost see her weighing her options. Stranger danger versus freezing to death. After a moment, she nodded. "Let me get my bag." She struggled with the door against the pressing snow, finally managing to push it open enough to slip out. Noah was surprised to see she wore a tailored pantsuit under her open parka, and what looked like designer leather boots entirely unsuitable for a Nebraska blizzard. "I'm Noah Collins," he said, offering his hand. "Alexandra Vega," she replied, her handshake firm despite her shivering. "Most people call me Alex." Noah nodded toward the SUV. "We should cover it as best we can. Once the snow stops, I can help dig it out, but for now, better to protect it from ice damage." Alex looked confused. "Cover it? With what?" In answer, Noah pulled a compact emergency tarp from his bag. "This won't do much, but it might keep the worst of the ice off the windshield and protect your electronics." He began spreading the tarp over the hood and windshield, securing it with snow packed around the edges. While he worked, Alex stood hugging herself, clearly unprepared for the intensity of the cold. Her city clothes, though expensive, offered little protection against rural Nebraska in a blizzard. "Here," Noah said, shrugging out of his heavy canvas jacket and offering it to her. "Put this on over your parka." "I can't take your coat. I'm used to the cold," he insisted. "And we're not going far." Reluctantly, she accepted, wrapping the oversized jacket around her slender frame. It smelled of hay and engine oil and honest work sense, entirely foreign to her world of corporate boardrooms and gleaming city towers. "I don't understand why you're helping me," Alex said, as they began the trudge back toward the farmhouse, following Noah's already partially filled-in tracks. Noah glanced at her, surprised by the question. "Because you needed help. Just like that? You don't know me." "Ma'am, out here, we don't need to know people to help them. Weather like this doesn't tear who you are." Alex fell silent, concentrating on placing her feet in Noah's footprints. The journey back to the farmhouse seemed to take forever, the cold penetrating even through Noah's layers. Without his jacket, the wind cut through his flannel shirt, but he said nothing, keeping a watchful eye on his city slicker companion. When the warm yellow glow of the farmhouse windows finally appeared through the curtain of snow, Noah felt a surge of relief. Lily must have been watching for them. The front door flew open as they approached. "Dad, you found someone." "This is Ms. Vega," Noah said as they stomped into the warmth of the entryway. "Her car went off the road. She'll be staying with us until the storm passes." Frank Collins raised a hand in greeting from his recliner. "Welcome to our home, Ms. Vega. Storm takes you by surprise?" Alex nodded, awkwardly shrugging out of Noah's jacket and her own parka, revealing her business attire. "I was trying to get to Omaha for a meeting tomorrow. The highway closure forced me onto these back roads, and then, well," she gestured helplessly. "Nobody's getting to Omaha tonight," Frank said, "or tomorrow either." by the looks of this storm. Noah hung up the coats and unwound his scarf. Lily, can you get our guests some dry socks? And maybe one of my sweaters? As Lily scampered off, Alex surveyed the farmhouse. It was humble but clean, with worn furniture that spoke of generations of use. Family photos crowded the mantel above the wood stove, and hand-sewn quilts draped over the couch. It couldn't have been more different from her minimalist city apartment. I appreciate your hospitality, she said formally. I'm happy to compensate you for your trouble. Noah waved away her offer. No need for that. We're just glad you're safe. Plenty of soup for one more. Alex seemed about to argue but was distracted by Lily's return with a pair of thick wool socks and a cable-knit sweater that had seen better days. These are Dad's warmest, Lily said proudly. The bathroom's down the hall, a fan. You want to change. When Alex emerged a few minutes later, she'd transformed from sleek businesswoman to something more approachable. The oversized sweater hung to her mid-thigh, and she'd loosened her severe bun, allowing dark waves to frame her face. Without her heels, she was surprisingly petite. Dinner was a simple affair. Vegetable soup, crusty bread that Noah had baked the day before, and strong black coffee. Alex ate hungrily, surprising herself with her appetite. This is delicious, she said, accepting a second bowl from Lily. Did you make this? Lily beamed with pride. Dad taught me. He says a good soup can fix almost anything. It's true, Frank added with a wink. Noah's mother used to say soup was love in a bowl. Noah smiled at the memory. Mom had a lot of sayings like that. As the evening progressed, the initial awkwardness faded. Lily regaled their guest with tales of farm life, while Frank shared stories of winters past. Alex found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years, the constant ping of emails and notifications silenced by the storm that had cut off cell service. Noah, however, remained somewhat reserved. He was polite, even warm at times, but Alex sensed a guardedness about him, a weight he carried that wasn't just from the physical labor of farm life. When Lily began to yawn, Noah sent her to bed with a gentle reminder to brush her teeth. Frank soon followed, his mobility slow but determined as he made his way to his bedroom with the aid of a walker. Left alone with their guest, Noah busied himself banking the fire in the wood stove. Alex watched his methodical movements, the way his hands seemed to know exactly what to do without thought. You have a lovely family, she said finally, breaking the comfortable silence. Your daughter is quite remarkable. Noah smiled, his face softening. Lily's the best thing in my life. Smart as a whip and twice as kind. And her mother? Alex asked, then immediately regretted the question when she saw Noah's expression shudder. Caroline died when Lily was 4, he said simply. Car accident on an icy road not unlike tonight. I'm so sorry, Alex said, genuinely contrite. I shouldn't have pried. Noah shrugged, his broad shoulders rising and falling beneath his flannel shirt. It's been 6 years. We've adapted. He changed the subject abruptly. The guest room isn't fancy, but it's clean and warm. Down the hall, last door on the left. Alex recognized the dismissal and stood, gathering her empty coffee mug. Thank you again for everything. Not many people would take in a stranded stranger. Like I said before, out here, we look out for each other. That includes folks just passing through. Noah took the mug from her hand. Get some rest, Ms. Vega. Storm might last a couple days, according to the forecast. Please, call me Alex. He nodded once. Good night, Alex. In the small guest room, Alex sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly overwhelmed by the strangeness of her situation. 24 hours ago, she'd been in a boardroom in Chicago, finalizing details for her company's newest tech acquisition. Now she was stranded in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, wearing a farmer's sweater and wool socks. Her phone showed no service, cutting her off from the constant stream of communications that typically dominated her life. She should have felt anxious, disconnected. Instead, a curious sense of peace settled over her as she listened to the howling wind outside and the creaking of the old farmhouse settling in for the skata. Night. Morning arrived with blinding brightness as sunlight reflected off the endless sea of white outside. The storm had blown itself out overnight, leaving behind a transformed landscape. Drifts rose higher than fence posts, and the world seemed eerily silent without the howling wind. Alex woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. She dressed quickly in yesterday's clothes, now dry after hanging near the wood stove overnight, and followed the enticing aroma to the kitchen. Noah stood at the ancient stove, spatula in hand, while Lily set the table. Frank sat in a chair by the window, gazing out at the snow-covered fields. "Morning." Noah greeted her without turning. "Coffee's fresh." "Any news about the roads?" Alex asked hopefully, accepting a steaming mug from Lily. Frank shook his head. "Radio says the plows won't get to the county roads until tomorrow at the earliest. Main highways are the priority." Alex's heart sank. "I have meetings in Omaha." "Nobody's getting to Omaha today," Noah said matter-of-factly, sliding a plate of eggs and bacon in front of her. "Cell towers might be back up soon, though. You can call and reschedule." Breakfast was surprisingly cheerful despite Alex's predicament. Lily chattered about her plans to build the world's biggest snowman, while Frank reminisced about blizzards past. Noah ate quietly, his mind seemingly elsewhere. After breakfast, Noah pulled on his boots and coat. "I need to check on the livestock," he explained. "Make sure the barn roof held up under all that snow." "Can I help?" Alex offered, surprising even herself. "I mean, I don't know anything about farms, but I can follow instructions." Noah assessed her for a moment, then nodded. "An extra pair of hands is always useful. But you'll need better boots than those Italian leather things." Minutes later, Alex found herself outfitted in an old pair of rubber boots that had belonged to Noah's late wife, along with a heavy coat, scarf, and gloves. The boots were a size too large, but thick wool socks made them workable. Outside, the cold took her breath away despite the bright sunshine. Snow had drifted against the farmhouse, in waves, some places reaching the windowsills. A narrow path had been shoveled from the back door toward the barn, which stood about 100 yards away. "Watch your step," Noah warned, as they trudged through the freshly shoveled path. "It's slick underneath." The barn was old but solid, with massive wooden beams supporting its roof. Inside, the air was surprisingly warm, filled with the earthy smell of hay and animals. Several cows lowed softly in their stalls, while chickens pecked at feed scattered on the ground. "This is all that's left," Noah said, gesturing to the modest collection of livestock. "Used to have 3 times this many cattle, plus pigs and horses. Had to sell most of them off last year after Dad's stroke." Alex noticed the strain in his voice. "Medical bills?" Noah nodded, busying himself with checking a water trough. Insurance covered some, but not enough. And then the drought hit hard. 3 years running. As they worked Noah, showing her how to distribute feed and check water levels, Alex found herself curious about this taciturn farmer who had rescued her without hesitation. "Have you always been a farmer?" she asked, helping him lift a heavy bale of hay. "Born and raised," he replied. "4th generation on this land. My great-grandfather homesteaded here in the 1880s. "That's impressive," Alex said sincerely. "Family legacy is rare these days." Noah's expression darkened slightly. "Legacy only matters if you can keep it going." Before she could probe further, a distant mechanical sound caught their attention. Noah moved to the barn door, shading his eyes against the glare off the snow. "Looks like Jim Parker's got his plow attached to his truck," he said. "He's clearing the main road." Alex's spirits lifted. "Does that mean I might be able to get out today?" "Possibly, but your car's still buried. We'll need to dig it out first." Noah glanced at her city soft hands. "And that's no small job." The rest of the morning was spent completing chores around the farm. To Alex's surprise, she found the physical labor oddly satisfying. In her normal life, exercise meant carefully scheduled sessions with a personal trainer, not hauling water buckets or spreading chicken feed. Here, work had an immediate, visible purpose. By mid-afternoon, cell service had been restored, and Alex's phone exploded with notifications. 27 emails, 15 text messages, and 7 missed calls, all demanding her attention. She sat at the kitchen table, fingers flying over the screen as she tried to manage the crisis of her absence from a series of critical meetings. Noah watched her transformation with interest. The relaxed woman who had helped him in the barn was gone, replaced by a sharp-eyed executive barking orders into her phone. Even her posture had changed, spine straight, shoulders squared, voice clipped and authoritative. "Yes, Marcus, I'm aware of the deadline," she was saying. "Push the meeting to Thursday. I'll fly directly from Omaha. No, tell Patterson I won't accept those terms. The valuation is non-negotiable." When she finally set down her phone with a sigh, Noah placed a cup of coffee in front of her. "Sounds like important business," he remarked. Alex rubbed her temples. "My company is in the final stages of acquiring a promising agritech startup. The negotiations are delicate." "Agritech?" Noah raised an eyebrow. "Like those drones that check crop conditions?" Alex looked surprised at his knowledge. "Among other things, yes. Precision agriculture, soil sensors, automated irrigation systems, technology to make farming more efficient and sustainable." Noah's expression was unreadable. "Fancy tools don't help much when banks are calling in loans, and insurance won't cover losses from climate disasters." The bitterness in his tone caught Alex off guard. Before she could respond, Lily bounded into the kitchen. "Dad, Jim Parker plowed our driveway too. He says he can help dig out the lady's car if we need." Noah ruffled his daughter's hair. "That's neighborly of him. Let's finish our coffee first. Then we'll see about getting Ms. Vega's car out." 2 hours later, Alex stood watching as Noah, Jim Parker, and Jim's teenage son worked to free her SUV from its snowy prison. The men had brought shovels and a tow chain, methodically clearing around the vehicle before attaching the chain to Jim's truck. "You folks got lucky," Jim commented as they worked. "Storm shifted east earlier than expected. Could have been much worse." Noah grunted in agreement, muscles straining as he dug beneath the SUV's chassis. Alex noticed the easy camaraderie between the neighbors, the unspoken understanding of men who had weathered many storms together, literal and figurative. When the SUV finally broke free from the snowbank, a cheer went up from the small group. Jim's truck pulled it backward onto the new-cleared road, and to everyone's relief, the engine started without issue. "Well, looks like you're good to go," Noah said, brushing snow from his gloves. "Road to the interstate should be clear by now." Alex felt an unexpected reluctance to leave. "I can't thank you enough, all of you. You may have saved my life last night." Jim waved away her thanks. "Just being neighborly, ma'am. Noah would have done the same for any of us." After Jim and his son departed, Alex found herself alone with Noah beside her SUV, its engine idling to warm up. She pulled out her wallet. "Please, let me pay you for your help and hospitality." Noah's face hardened. "I told you before, we don't need payment." "It's not charity," Alex insisted. "It's compensation for services rendered. You rescued me, housed me, fed me. And we'd do it again for anyone," he interrupted. "Put your money away, Ms. Vega." Something in his tone, pride mixed with resignation, made Alex pause. She studied him more carefully, noting the worn edges of his coat, the patches on his gloves, the exhaustion that seemed to run deeper than just physical fatigue. "What if I wanted to repay you in another way?" she asked carefully. Noah raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "I told you my company works in agritech. We're always looking for test sites for new technologies, partnerships with working farms." The idea was forming as she spoke. "Your place would be perfect established operation, diverse terrain, experienced farmer." Noah's laugh was short and bitter. "Ms. Vega, in 30 days, this won't be my farm anymore." The statement hung in the cold air between them. Alex blinked in surprise. "What do you mean?" Noah hesitated, then seemed to decide there was no point in hiding it. "Banks foreclosing at the end of the month, 3 years of drought, medical bills, equipment failures. It all added up. I've tried everything, but unless a miracle happens, the Collins family farm stops with me." The raw pain in his voice struck Alex deeply. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his arm. "I'm so sorry, Noah. I had no idea." He shrugged, uncomfortable with her sympathy. "It's the story of rural America these days. Nothing special about my troubles." Alex's mind was already racing, evaluating possibilities, running numbers. What if there was a way to save your farm?" Noah's eyes narrowed. "I've heard plenty of schemes and promises. Banks don't care about family legacy or hard work. They want their money. I'm not talking about banks, Alex said, her voice gaining enthusiasm. I'm talking about investment, partnership. The technologies my company develops need real-world testing grounds, farmers with practical knowledge to provide feedback. You're suggesting your company would invest in my failing farm? Noah's tone was skeptical. Why would they do that? Not my company, Alex clarified. Me, personally. At his confused look, she explained, I founded Vega Innovations 10 years ago. It's my company, and I make the investment decisions. Noah stared at her in disbelief. You're saying you want to invest in my farm because I pulled your car out of a snowbank? I'm saying I want to invest in your farm because it makes business sense, Alex countered. But yes, the fact that you helped a stranger without expectation of reward tells me something about your character. And in business, I've learned that character matters as much as balance sheets. Noah shook his head slowly. Ms. Vega appreciate the gesture, but charity wrapped in business language is still charity. Then let me prove it's not charity, she challenged. Let me come back in a week with a proper business proposal. Numbers, projections, technology specifications. You can decide then if it makes sense for you and your family. Their conversation was interrupted by Lily running toward them, waving a small package wrapped in newspaper. Ms. Alex, wait, I made you something to remember us by. Alex knelt to accept the gift, carefully unwrapping it to reveal a small, hand-carved wooden figure of a snowman. Grandpa helped me sand it smooth, Lily explained proudly. So you won't forget being snowed in with us. Unexpected emotion tightened Alex's throat. It's beautiful, Lily. Thank you. I'll keep it forever. As she straightened, Alex met Noah's eyes over his daughter's head. 1 week, she said quietly. If you're not interested after seeing my proposal, I'll never mention it again. After a long moment, Noah nodded once. 1 week. As Alex's SUV disappeared down the newly plowed road, Noah stood watching until the red taillights vanished around a bend. Behind him, the farmhouse waited, warm and familiar and filled with generations of memories, and soon to be lost to him forever. Unless, by some wild chance, the businesswoman's promises proved more substantial than the melting snow. Alexandra Vega had made her career by recognizing opportunities where others saw only problems. At 34, she had built Vega Innovations from a dorm room startup into a technology powerhouse valued at over $3 billion. Her specialty was agricultural technology systems designed to revolutionize farming through data analysis, automation, and sustainability practices. As her private jet streaked across the Midwestern sky toward Chicago, Alex stared out the window at the patchwork of farms below, thinking about Noah Collins and his struggling operation. She had meant what she said about investing, but not exactly in the way Noah assumed. For months, Vega Innovations had been seeking the perfect location for their new Rural Innovation Center, a working farm that would serve as both a testing ground for new technologies and a training facility for farmers adapting to climate change. The prerequisites were specific: a multi-generational farm with diverse terrain, an experienced farmer willing to partner rather than simply sell, and a location accessible to transportation hubs, but still authentically rural. The Collins farm checked every box, and the fact that it was facing foreclosure meant the investment would come at a favorable price point. Ms. Vega? Her assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts. Marcus is on the line. He says it's urgent regarding the Patterson negotiation. Alex sighed, placing her Bluetooth earpiece in place. Put him through. For the remainder of the flight, business demands consumed her attention. The Nebraska farm and its taciturn owner were temporarily filed away in the back of her mind, important, but not immediate. It wasn't until 3 days later, seated in her sleek quarter office in downtown Chicago, that Alex returned to the idea. Her team had compiled a comprehensive report on the Collins farm, based on public records and satellite imagery. The picture it painted was even more dire than Noah had admitted. The property has been mortgaged to the hilt, her financial analyst explained, pointing to figures on a tablet. Tax assessments showed declining values due to decreased productivity. Equipment is outdated, soil quality compromised by conventional farming practices. Honestly, Alex, it's a money pit. Alex tapped her pen against her desk thoughtfully. And that's exactly why it's perfect. We're not looking for a showcase farm. We need a real operation facing real challenges. The whole point of the Rural Innovation Center is to demonstrate how our technologies can transform struggling operations into sustainable, profitable enterprises. End quote. Her team exchanged skeptical glances. There's also the human element, Alex continued. Noah Collins is exactly the kind of partner we need. Experienced, knowledgeable, with deep roots in the community. And he's desperate enough to consider an arrangement he might otherwise reject out of pride. You said he was resistant to the idea of investment, her chief operating officer pointed out. If he won't sell and won't accept partners, what's your plan? Alex smiled slightly. He hasn't heard my full proposal yet. I'm flying back out there tomorrow. True to her word, exactly 1 week after leaving the Collins farm, Alex's sleek black SUV once again turned onto the rutted driveway leading to the farmhouse. This time, there was no blizzard to contend with, just a clear, cold Nebraska afternoon. Noah was working in the yard when she arrived, splitting logs with powerful swings of an axe. He paused mid-swing when he spotted her vehicle, his expression unreadable as he embedded the axe in the chopping block and wiped his brow. "Didn't think you'd actually come back," he said, as she approached, dressed now in practical jeans and boots rather than her business attire. "I keep my promises, Mr. Collins," Alex replied. From her SUV, she retrieved a leather portfolio and a large tube containing rolled documents. "Is this a good time to talk?" Noah gestured toward the house. "Lily's at school. Dad's napping. As good a time as any." In the kitchen, Alex spread her materials across the worn wooden table while Noah made coffee. The contrast between them was stark, her crisp documents and digital tablet against the backdrop of the humble, time-worn farmhouse. "Before I start," Alex said, "I want to be clear about something. This isn't charity. What I'm proposing is a business arrangement that would benefit both of us. I need something you have, and you need something I can provide." Noah settled into a chair across from her, his large, calloused hands wrapped around a coffee mug. "I'm listening." For the next hour, Alex outlined her proposal in detail. The Rural Innovation Center concept, the technologies they wanted to deploy, the training programs they intended to develop, the marketing potential of partnering with a 4-generation family farm. As she spoke, she watched Noah's expression shift from skepticism to cautious interest. He asked sharp, practical questions that revealed a deeper understanding of agricultural economics than she had anticipated. "So in this arrangement," he clarified, "I would retain ownership of the land, but your company would invest in new equipment, technologies, and sustainable farming practices. In return, you get to use the farm as a demonstration site and share in the profits from increased productivity." "Exactly," Alex confirmed. "We're not buying your farm. We're investing in its future, and ours. The initial capital infusion would be enough to clear your debt with the bank and provide operating funds for the first 2 years. After that, we split profits according to this schedule." She slid a spreadsheet across the table. Noah studied the numbers carefully. "And if it fails? If your fancy technologies don't work in practice the way they do in your Chicago labs?" "We absorb that risk," Alex said confidently. "Your only obligation is to work the farm using our systems and provide honest feedback. If productivity doesn't increase as projected, we adjust our approach. The agreement is for 10 years, with options to renew or dissolve the partnership at that time." End quote. Noah leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed. "Why me? Why this farm? There must be thousands of struggling operations that would jump at this deal without asking questions." Alex had anticipated this question. 3 reasons. First, your farm has the perfect combination of features we need: varied terrain, diverse crop history, proximity to transportation corridors but still genuinely rural. Second, you bring 4 generations of farming knowledge that no algorithm can replicate. And third, she paused, meeting his gaze directly, "you impressed me." "By digging your car out of the snow?" Noah's tone was skeptical. "By showing me what rural values really mean," Alex corrected. "In my world, nothing comes without strings." You helped a stranger with no expectation of reward. That kind of integrity is rare, and it makes you the perfect partner for a project that will ultimately serve as a model for other farms across the country. Noah was silent for a long moment, his eyes moving from the papers spread across his kitchen table to the window that framed a view of fields his family had worked for over a century. "I'd need to talk to my father," he said finally, "and have a lawyer review everything." Alex nodded. "Of course. I've prepared a copy of all documents for your legal review." She slid a thick envelope across the table. "And I'd be happy to explain everything to your father as well." Before Noah could respond, the front door burst open, and Lily rushed in, her school day complete. She stopped short at the sight of their visitor. "Ms. Alex, you came back." Her face lit up with delight. "I promised I would," Alex smiled. "And I'd brought something for you." From her bag, she produced a small package wrapped in silver paper. Lily looked to her father for permission before accepting the gift. Inside was a children's book about female inventors throughout history. "My mom gave me this book when I was about your age," Alex explained. "It helped me believe I could build things that mattered." Noah watched the interaction with mixed emotions. The genuine warmth between his daughter and this city executive confused him. Alex Vega represented a world completely foreign to everything he knew at. Somehow, in this moment, she seemed to fit naturally into his kitchen, as if the sharp edges of her corporate persona had softened in the presence of his daughter's enthusiasm. "Dad says you might help save our farm," Lily said, looking up from the book with wide eyes. "Is that true?" Alex glanced at Noah, who shifted uncomfortably. "I've been explaining some business ideas to your father," she said carefully. "But it would be his decision. And your grandpa's too. Can I show Ms. Alex my science project before she leaves?" Lily asked her father. "I made a model of water erosion like we talked about." Noah nodded, grateful for the momentary reprieve from the weight of decisions pressing down on him. As Lily led Alex away, chattering excitedly about her project, Noah gathered the proposal documents into a neat stack. The numbers were impressive, far more generous than he had expected. But something still nagged at him. A lifetime of farming instinct that warned against solutions that seemed too perfect. He carried his coffee to the living room, where his father had awakened from his nap and was watching the local news. "We have a visitor," Noah said, settling into the chair beside Frank's recliner. "Remember the woman from the blizzard? She's back with a business proposal." Frank muted the television. "What kind of proposal?" Noah explained the concept of the Rural Innovation Center, the technology investment, the profit-sharing arrangement. As he spoke, he watched his father's weathered face for any sign of rejection or suspicion. Instead, he saw a thoughtful consideration that surprised him. "Let me get this straight," Frank said when Noah had finished. "She wants to save our farm to use it as a testing ground for new farming technologies? And we'd still own the land, still be the ones working it?" "That's what she says," Noah confirmed. "The numbers look solid, enough to clear the bank debt and give us operating capital. But you're wondering what the catch is," Frank finished for him. Noah nodded. "Exactly. Nobody invests millions in a failing farm out of the goodness of their heart, not even someone who got stuck in a blizzard." Frank was quiet for a moment, his gnarled fingers tapping thoughtfully on the arm of his recliner. "You know, son, when your great-grandfather started this place, he was considered radical. One of the first in the county to use a tractor instead of horses. People thought he was crazy, said he was ruining farming for everyone else. This is a bit different, Dad." "Is it?" "Every generation has had to adapt. Your grandfather embraced chemical fertilizers. I invested in irrigation systems. Maybe this is your adaptation." Frank's eyes were clear and direct. "The world's changing fast. Farmers who don't change with it won't survive." "So you think I should accept her offer?" "I think you should consider it carefully," Frank replied. "Have a lawyer check everything, of course. But Noah, ask yourself this. What's your alternative? Lose the farm entirely? Watch another corporate megafarm swallow up our land? At least this way, we'd still be Collins farmers." Before Noah could respond, Lily returned with Alex, both smiling over some shared joke. Alex's eyes moved between Noah and Frank, sensing she had interrupted an important conversation. "Mr. Collins," she said, extending her hand to Frank. "It's good to see you again. I hope Noah has filled you in on my proposal." Frank's handshake was firm despite his age. "He has. Sounds interesting. Also sounds like something that would never have occurred to a traditional ag business company." Alex smiled appreciatively. "Traditional is exactly what we're trying to move beyond. Agriculture needs innovation to survive climate challenges, market pressures, and changing consumer demands." "And you think our little farm could help with all that?" Frank asked, his tone gently skeptical. "I know it could," Alex replied with conviction. "The future of farming isn't just about massive operations with thousands of acres. It's about smart, sustainable practices that can work at any scale. Your farm with its history, diversity, and the knowledge you both possess is the perfect laboratory for proving that." As the afternoon progressed, the conversation continued, moving from the kitchen to the living room and back again. Alex answered every question patiently, never dismissing concerns or oversimplifying complexities. Noah found himself reluctantly impressed by her grasp of agricultural realities and her willingness to acknowledge the limits of technology. When Lily was sent to do her homework, the adults moved to more practical matters: timelines, responsibilities, contingencies. Frank proved to be an astute negotiator despite his physical limitations, pressing Alex on points that Noah hadn't even considered. "The agreement gives your company the right to install monitoring equipment throughout the property," Frank noted, reviewing a clause in the contract. "How intrusive would that be to our daily operations?" "Minimal," Alex assured him. "Mostly soil sensors, weather stations, and cameras to track crop development. The data collection is passive. It wouldn't interfere with your work. In fact, you'd have access to all the data through a custom dashboard, giving you insights you've never had before." By early evening, when Alex prepared to leave, the atmosphere had shifted from cautious skepticism to tentative possibility. No decisions had been made. Noah insisted on having their family lawyer review everything, but the door had been opened wider than Alex had dared to hope. "I'll be in Omaha for the next 3 days," she said, gathering her materials. "Take all the time you need to review everything. My contact information is in the folder. Call any time if you have questions." At the door, she paused, looking back at the father and son standing side by side, different generations of the same stubborn, resilient farming stock. "I meant what I said before. This isn't charity. It's a partnership that could benefit us both. I hope you'll consider it seriously." Noah nodded, his expression still guarded but less hostile than before. "We will. Thank you for coming all this way." As Alex's SUV disappeared down the driveway, Frank patted his son's shoulder. "She's quite something, isn't she?" Noah made a non-committal sound. "She's a businesswoman, Dad. This is just another deal to her." Frank's eyes twinkled knowingly. "If you say so, son. If you say so." 3 days later, Noah sat in the modest office of Alan Guthrie, the Collins family's longtime attorney. The elderly lawyer had reviewed Vega Innovations' proposal thoroughly, his desk now covered with highlighted documents and legal pads filled with notes. "Well?" Noah asked impatiently. "What's the verdict?" Alan removed his reading glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "In 35 years of practicing law in this county, I've never seen an offer quite like this one. I've gone over it with a fine-tooth comb, looking for hidden traps or escape clauses. And I'm surprised to say, it's remarkably straightforward. The terms are clear, the obligations reasonable, the protections for both parties well-balanced." Alan tapped the stack of papers. "In fact, it leans more in your favor than I would have expected. You retain ownership of the land. You maintain operational control. The investment is structured as a partnership rather than a loan. And there are multiple exit clauses if things don't work out." Noah frowned. "That's what worries me. Why would she offer terms so favorable to us? There must be something we're missing." Alan considered this. "Have you researched Vega Innovations? Their reputation? Their financial stability?" "Some," Noah admitted. "They're legitimate, privately held, founded by Alexandra Vega about 10 years ago, specializing in agricultural technology with a focus on sustainability and climate adaptation. Growing rapidly, major contracts with several international organizations. No scandals or lawsuits that I could find. And is Vega herself? Noah shrugged. Self-made tech entrepreneur. MIT graduate. No family connections in the industry. Started the company with grant money and built it from there. Alan nodded slowly. That's consistent with what I found as well. Noah, is it possible you're looking for problems because you're uncomfortable with the idea of accepting help? Noah stiffened. This isn't about pride, Alan. It's about making sure I'm not signing away my family's future. I understand that, the lawyer said gently. But from a strictly legal perspective, this agreement protects your interests remarkably well. The question isn't whether the contract is sound, it is. The question is whether you're willing to embrace a very different vision of farming than what your family has practiced for generations. That was indeed the heart of the matter. Noah had spent the past 3 days in a state of internal conflict, torn between the desperate need to save his family's land and the deep-seated resistance to changing the way that land was worked. The technologies Alex proposed, soil sensors that could detect moisture levels down to the brass inch, drone monitoring of crop health, predictive analytics for planting and harvesting seemed alien to the farming traditions he had inherited. What would you do? Noah asked finally. If it were your family's legacy at stake? Alan didn't hesitate. I'd sign the agreement. Not just because it saves the farm from foreclosure, but because it represents adaptation rather than surrender. The Collins name would still be on the land. You'd still be the one making the daily decisions. But you'd have resources and technologies that might make those decisions more effective. Noah was silent for a long moment, staring out the office window at the small town square beyond. This community had been built by farmers like his great-grandfather, stubborn, independent men who viewed change with suspicion. But they had been innovators too, in their own way, each generation adopting new methods that the previous one might have resisted. I'll need to sleep on it, he said finally. Talk to my father once more. Alan nodded, understanding. The bank won't wait much longer, Noah. Whatever you decide, it needs to be soon. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Noah sat with his father in the quiet living room. The proposal spread out on the coffee table between them. Outside, a gentle snow had begun to fall, nothing like the blizzard that had brought Alex Vega into their lives, but a reminder of how quickly circumstances could change. I'm still torn, Noah admitted. Everything checks out legally. The terms are fair more than fair. But it would change everything about how we farm. Frank nodded, understanding his son's conflict. Change is never easy, especially when it challenges our identity. But Noah, being a farmer, has never been about doing things exactly the same way, year after year. It's about stewardship of the land, about providing for family, about adapting to whatever nature and markets throw at us. This is more than just buying a new tractor or trying a different crop rotation, Noah pointed out. This is sensors and drones and computers making decisions that farmers have made by instinct for centuries. Not making decisions, Frank corrected. Informing decisions. You'd still be the farmer, Noah. The technology would just be another tool, like the tractor or the irrigation system. Noah ran a hand through his hair in frustration. And what happens in 10 years when the agreement ends? What if we become completely dependent on technologies we don't own or fully understand? The agreement includes technology transfer and training, Frank reminded him. And 10 years from now, these systems will be commonplace. Better to be on the leading edge than left behind entirely. They talked late into the night, weighing options, considering consequences. As the grandfather clock in the hallway struck midnight, Noah finally reached a decision. I'll call her tomorrow, he said, gathering the documents. But I want to add one condition to the agreement. Frank raised an eyebrow questioningly. I want her personally involved, Noah explained. Not just her company's technicians and managers. If this is going to be a true partnership, I want to work with the decision-maker directly, at least in the beginning. Frank smiled slightly. I think Ms. Vega might be amenable to that condition. Noah shot his father a sharp look. "This is strictly business, Dad." "Of course it is, son. Of course it is." Alexandra Vega was not accustomed to feeling nervous. She had negotiated billion-dollar deals, faced hostile takeover attempts, and pitched to rooms full of skeptical investors without a tremor. Yet as she waited for Noah Collins to arrive at the small cafe in downtown Omaha, her stomach fluttered with an unfamiliar anxiety. The cafe was her choice. Neutral ground, public but not too formal. She had deliberately dressed down in jeans and a simple sweater, wanting to emphasize the personal nature of their potential partnership, rather than the corporate power dynamics. She spotted Noah the moment he entered, his tall frame and broad shoulders making him stand out among the urban professionals who filled the cafe. He looked uncomfortable in this setting, his work boots and canvas jacket marking him as an outsider. But there was a quiet dignity in the way he held himself, scanning the room until his eyes found hers. "Mr. Collins," she greeted him, rising to shake his hand. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Vega." His handshake was firm but not aggressive. "Hope I didn't keep you waiting." "Not at all. Would you like coffee? They make an excellent pour over here." Noah nodded, and Alex signaled the barista for 2 coffees. She noted the way Noah glanced around the cafe, taking in the sleek minimalist decor, the patrons absorbed in their laptops and tablets, the absence of anything resembling the rural Nebraska he knew. "Different world, isn't it?" she commented, following his gaze. "Very." His eyes settled back on her, though maybe not as different as I once thought. When their coffees arrived, Noah took a careful sip, then placed a folder on the table between them. "I've reviewed your proposal with my father and our attorney. We're prepared to move forward, with one additional condition." Alex felt a surge of triumph, but kept her expression professionally neutral. "I'm listening." "I want your personal involvement," Noah stated directly. "Not just your company's representatives. If this is truly a partnership rather than just an investment, I want to work with you directly, at least through the initial setup phase." The request surprised her. Most of her clients preferred to deal with her team of experts, rather than the CEO herself. "May I ask why?" Noah considered his words carefully. "Because I'm not just signing a business agreement. I'm entrusting my family's legacy to your vision. I need to know that the person behind that vision is as committed to making this work as I would be." Alex found herself touched by the simple honesty of his reasoning. "That's fair. I can commit to personal oversight of the implementation, including regular site visits and direct communication. Would that satisfy your condition?" Noah nodded. "It would." He hesitated, then added, "There's something else you should know. This decision wasn't easy for me. I'm still not entirely comfortable with how much this will change our traditional farming methods. But I recognize that without change, there would be no farm left at all." "Change is difficult," Alex acknowledged, "especially when it touches something as fundamental as your family's way of life. But I believe this partnership can preserve what matters most: your continued stewardship of the land while adapting to the realities of modern agriculture." Noah took another sip of his coffee, studying her over the rim of his cup. "You talk like someone who understands farming, but your world is technology, business. How did you end up focusing on agriculture?" It was a personal question, and Alex rarely discussed her background with business associates. But something about Noah's direct gaze encouraged honesty. "My grandparents were farmers," she revealed. "Small operation in California's Central Valley. They lost everything in the drought of the early 1990s. I was just a child, but I remember the day the bank came, the auction of equipment, the look on my grandfather's face when he had to leave the only home he'd ever known." Noah's expression softened with recognition of shared experience. "When I studied engineering at MIT," Alex continued, "I became obsessed with how technology could help farmers survive the challenges that destroyed my grandparents' livelihood. Climate change, water scarcity, market volatility. Vega innovations grew from that obsession." "I didn't know," Noah said quietly. "It's not something I usually share in business settings," Alex admitted. "But I want you to understand this isn't just about profit margins or technology demonstrations. For me, it's personal." The revelation changed something in the atmosphere between them. Noah visibly relaxed, the wariness in his eyes replaced by a new kind of assessment. All right, Ms. Vega. Alex, she corrected. If we're going to be partners, I think first names are appropriate. Alex, he amended. Let's move forward. For the next hour, they discussed practical matters, timelines, initial installations, training requirements. Noah's questions were incisive, revealing a deeper understanding of agricultural economics than Alex had initially given him credit for. He wasn't just a man with dirt under his fingernails. He was a thoughtful steward of a complex operation with multiple interdependent systems. As their meeting concluded, Alex produced a sleek tablet. I've made the changes we discussed to the agreement. If you're comfortable, we can sign electronically right now. Noah hesitated. I still prefer paper contracts. Alex smiled. Of course. From her briefcase, she produced printed copies identical to the electronic version. 2 signatures, and we have a deal. Noah read through the document one final time, then signed his name with deliberate strokes. Alex added her signature beside his, feeling a surprising sense of significance in the moment. This wasn't just another business arrangement. It was a bridge between 2 worlds that rarely connected in meaningful ways. I'll have the initial funds transferred to clear the bank loan immediately, she said, tucking the signed contracts into her briefcase. The technical team can begin installations next week, if that works for you. That works, Noah confirmed. The sooner we start, the better. As they rose to leave, Noah extended his hand once more. Thank you, Alex. Not just for the investment, but for understanding what this farm means to my family. His sincerity caught her off guard. In her world of shrewd negotiations and calculated advantages, genuine gratitude was a rare commodity. She found herself holding his hand a moment longer than strictly necessary. Thank you for trusting me with your legacy, she replied. I promise you won't regret it. Outside the cafe, they paused awkwardly on the sidewalk, suddenly conscious of the disparity in their transportation. Alex's driver waited in a black town car, while Noah's mud-splattered pickup was parked across the Beret Street. I'll see you next week then, Noah said, when your team comes to start the installations. Actually, Alex replied, I thought I might come myself for the initial assessment. If that's all right with you. Noah nodded, the ghost of a smile touching the corners of his mouth. That would be fine. Lily will be excited to see you again. As she watched him cross the street to his truck, Alex was struck by an unfamiliar feeling. In building her company, she had prioritized innovation, efficiency, progress often at the expense of human connection. But something about Noah Collins and his struggling farm had awakened a different kind of ambition in her, not just to advance agricultural technology, but to prove that progress didn't have to come at the cost of values worth preserving. It was a challenge unlike any she had faced before, and Alexandra Vega had never been one to back down from a challenge. Spring came early to Nebraska that year, the harsh winter giving way to a sudden, vibrant thaw. On the Collins farm, the transformation was more than seasonal. Gleaming weather stations now dotted the fields, solar panels had been installed on the barn roof, and a small fleet of agricultural drones rested in a newly constructed shed. Noah stood at the edge of the eastern field, watching as a technician made final adjustments to a soil sensor array. Beside him, Alex consulted a tablet, her fingers swiping through charts and data points with practiced ease. The moisture mapping is already showing interesting patterns, she commented. See this area here? The sensor indicates higher clay content than we expected, which affects water retention. We might want to adjust irrigation zones accordingly. Noah studied the screen, still growing accustomed to seeing his family's land rendered as color-coded digital maps. 3 weeks into their partnership, the farm was becoming a showcase of agricultural technology. Teams of engineers and technicians had swarmed the property, installing equipment, running tests, collecting baseline data. The bank loan had been paid. Full. Operating capital deposited in a new account, and a comprehensive implementation plan developed. Through it all, true to her promise, Alex had been personally involved. She had visited the farm 5 times, staying for days at a stretch, overseeing installations and explaining systems to Noah and Frank with patient detail. Her corporate armor had gradually softened in the rural setting. Today she wore jeans and boots, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her usual sleek blazer replaced by a practical field jacket. "What do you think?" she asked, noting his thoughtful expression. "It's overwhelming," Noah admitted. "All this technology, all this data. I'm used to making decisions based on what I can see and feel the texture of soil between my fingers, the color of the crop, the smell of the air before rain." "Those intuitions are still valuable," Alex assured him. "The sensors don't replace your knowledge, they enhance it. They can tell you moisture levels at different soil depths, but they can't tell you how a particular field has responded to drought conditions in the past. That's where your experience comes in." Noah nodded, appreciating her understanding. "It's still a lot to take in." "It is," Alex agreed. "But you're adapting faster than most farmers I've worked with." From across the field, Lily came running toward them, her red hair flying behind her. In the weeks since the partnership began, she had appointed herself unofficial assistant to the technical teams, absorbing information about sensors and drones with the endless curiosity of childhood. "Dad! Ms. Alex! Grandpa says to tell you lunch is ready, and the new tablets for the irrigation system just got delivered." Alex smiled at the girl's enthusiasm. "We'll be right there, Lily. Would you mind telling the technicians as well?" As Lily dashed off to spread the news, Noah found himself appreciating the easy rapport Alex had developed with his daughter. Unlike many of the technical team, who treated Lily's questions as cute distractions, Alex engaged with her seriously, explaining concepts in terms the child could understand without talking down to her. "She reminds me of myself at that age," Alex commented as they walked back toward the farmhouse, "always asking how things work, wanting to take them apart and put them back together." "She's thriving with all this activity," Noah agreed. "The school project she's doing on soil science has made her quite popular with her science teacher." At the farmhouse, Frank had prepared a simple lunch for the technical team: sandwiches, homemade pickles, and his famous apple pie. The elderly farmer had embraced the changes coming to the farm with surprising enthusiasm, particularly the health monitoring systems Alex had suggested installing in the livestock barn. As they ate, Noah observed the easy interaction between the technical team and his family. What had begun as an awkward collision of worlds was evolving into something approaching harmony. The technicians had started to appreciate the practical wisdom Frank offered about the land's particularities, while Frank and Noah had begun to see the potential in the data-driven approaches the team advocated. "We'll finish the southern field installations by tomorrow," the lead technician reported. "Then we can begin calibrating the automated irrigation system. With your approval, Mr. Collins, we'd like to establish test plots to compare traditional watering schedules with the sensor-driven approach." Noah nodded. "Makes sense. Let's set aside the southwest quadrant for that. It's always been the most consistent section in terms of soil quality." The conversation continued, a blend of agricultural tradition and technological innovation that would have seemed impossible just months before. Through it all, Noah was increasingly aware of Alex's presence beside him, her insightful questions, her respectful inclusion of his father's perspective, the subtle way she ensured the technical team didn't overwhelm the farmers with jargon. After lunch, as the team returned to work, Alex remained behind to review financial projections with Noah and Frank. The kitchen table became their conference room, covered now with printouts and projections rather than farm call catalogs and bills. "The initial setup costs are higher than we anticipated," Alex explained, "but the projected efficiency gains should offset that within 2 growing seasons. And we've secured participation in 3 federal sustainability programs that will provide additional income streams." Frank studied the projections with sharp eyes. "These yield increases seem optimistic. Even with perfect weather conditions, can these systems really deliver a 30% improvement?" "They have in our other test locations," Alex confirmed. "But you're right to be cautious. That's why we've built in conservative revenue projections for the first year. We want to underpromise and overdeliver." As the afternoon progressed, Noah found himself increasingly comfortable with the path they had chosen. The technologies that had seemed alien were beginning to make sense as tools, rather than replacements for farming knowledge. and Alex's genuine commitment to the partnership was evident in every decision, every explanation. When the financial review concluded, Frank excused himself for his afternoon rest, leaving Noah and Alex alone at the kitchen table. A comfortable silence settled between them as they gathered the scattered papers. "Thank you," Noah said suddenly. Alex looked up, surprised. "For what specifically?" "For understanding that this isn't just a business transaction for us. For respecting what we know about this land, while introducing what we need to learn. For treating my father's experience as valuable, rather than outdated." Alex's expression softened. "Farming is changing, Noah, but that doesn't mean the wisdom of generations should be discarded. The most successful agricultural innovations build on traditional knowledge, rather than replacing it." Their eyes met across the table, and Noah was struck by a realization that had been gradually forming over the past weeks. Alexandra Vega wasn't just a shrewd businesswoman or a tech visionary. She was a person of genuine conviction. Someone who believed deeply in the work she was doing. The sharp edges he had first perceived were not coldness, but rather intensity of purpose. "Would you like to see something?" he asked impulsively. "Away from all the technology and installations for a bit." Alex checked her watch. "I have about an hour before the next team meeting. What did you have in mind?" 15 minutes later, they stood atop a gentle rise at the farm's western boundary. The afternoon sun warmed their faces, and a light breeze carried the scent of awakening soil. From this vantage point, they could see the entirety of the Collins farm fields beginning to green with early growth, the cluster of buildings at its heart, the winding creek that marked the southern property line. "This is my favorite spot on the whole farm," Noah said quietly. "My father brought me here when I was a boy, just as his father brought him. 4 generations of Collins farmers have stood on this spot and looked out over this land." Alex was silent, sensing the significance of his sharing this personal tradition. "When I was younger, I thought farming was just about working the land," Noah continued, "planting the right crops, fighting the weather, bringing in the harvest. But my father taught me it's really about stewardship, taking care of something that will outlast you, making it better for those who come after." "That's a beautiful way to think about it," Alex said softly. Noah turned to face her directly. "I wasn't sure we were doing the right thing, accepting your proposal. I worried we might be sacrificing that stewardship for short-term survival. But these past weeks have shown me that doesn't have to be the case. The technologies you're bringing might actually help us be better stewards, more efficient and sustainable." Alex's expression was open, touched by his candor. "That's always been my goal, not to replace traditional farming but to strengthen it. To give family farms like yours the tools to survive in a changing world." Standing together on that quiet hillside, with the farms spread out below them and the vast Nebraska sky above, something shifted between them. The business partnership that had brought them together seemed suddenly to encompass more than contracts and projections. It was built on shared values, mutual respect, and perhaps something more personal that neither was quite ready to acknowledge. "We should head back," Noah said finally. "Your team will be waiting." As they walked down the hill together, their shoulders occasionally brushing, Noah found himself wondering about the woman beside him, what she did when she wasn't transforming farms, whether she had family waiting somewhere. What drove her to work so tirelessly? The curiosity surprised him. He had spent the years since Caroline's death focused entirely on survival, on being both parents to Lily, on keeping the farm afloat. There had been no space for personal connections beyond family and longtime neighbors. Yet something about Alex Vega had begun to penetrate the careful isolation he had built around himself. Perhaps it was her unexpected understanding of what the farm meant to him. Perhaps it was the way she spoke to Lily as a person rather than a child. Or perhaps it was simply the fact that, for the first time in years, Noah could see a future beyond the next bank payment, the next failed crop, the next disappointment. Whatever it was, it both unsettled and intrigued him. And as they rejoined the busy activity of the farm, returning to their professional roles, Noah found himself already looking forward to their next conversation, away from spreadsheets and sensors, where the person behind the businesswoman might be glimpsed again. Over the Stana. Following months The Collins farm underwent a remarkable transformation. Spring planting was conducted with precision guidance systems that optimized seed placement based on soil conditions. Irrigation became a targeted science rather than guesswork, with water delivered exactly where and when it was needed. Drones regularly surveyed the growing crops, identifying pest pressures and nutrient deficiencies before they became visible to the naked eye. Noah and Frank adapted to the new systems with increasing confidence, finding that their generations of farming knowledge complemented rather than conflicted with the data-driven approaches. The technical team, initially rotating through with weekly visits, gradually reduced their presence as the farmers became self-sufficient with the technologies. Alex's visits, however, continued regularly. What had begun as oversight of the implementation evolved into a more collaborative relationship. She valued Noah's practical feedback on the systems, incorporating his suggestions into software updates and equipment modifications. Their professional interactions became punctuated with personal conversations about Lily's progress in school, Frank's improving health, and occasionally, their own backgrounds and experiences. By midsummer, the first results of their partnership began to materialize. The test plots showed dramatically improved yields compared to traditional methods. Resource usage, water, fertilizer, fuel had decreased while productivity increased. The local agricultural community had taken notice, with neighboring farmers frequently stopping by to see the new systems in action. On a warm July evening, Noah sat on the farmhouse porch, reviewing data on his tablet, an activity that would have seemed foreign to him 6 months earlier, but had now become routine. The setting sun cast a golden glow over fields that were flourishing in ways he hadn't seen in years. From inside the house came the sounds of Lily practicing piano, a luxury they had only recently been able to afford with the partnership's initial income. The crunch of tires on gravel announced a visitor. Noah looked up to see Alex's SUV coming up the driveway. Unexpected, but not unwelcome. She had been in Chicago for the past 2 weeks, the longest she had been away since their partnership began. She emerged from the vehicle looking somehow both immaculate and weary. Designer sunglasses pushed back into her hair, crisp white blouse despite the summer heat, but with shadows under her eyes that spoke of long hours and little rest. "This is a surprise," Noah said, setting aside his tablet as she climbed the porch steps. "Thought you were tied up with investor meetings all week." "I was," Alex replied, settling into the wicker chair beside him. "But something came up that I wanted to discuss in person rather than over a video call." The seriousness in her tone made Noah's stomach tighten. "Problem with the systems?" "No, quite the opposite." Alex's expression softened into a smile. "The preliminary results from your farm have exceeded even our most optimistic projections. Resource efficiency up 40%. Yield increases tracking toward 35%. Soil health indicators improving across all test plots." Noah released the breath he'd been holding. "That's good news then." "It's exceptional news," Alex corrected. "So exceptional that it's attracted attention. Several major agricultural corporations have approached Vega Innovations about partnerships or acquisitions in the past week." Noah's brow furrowed. "You're selling the company?" "No," Alex said firmly. "I've turned down all offers. But the attention has accelerated some plans I've been considering for the Rural Innovation Center concept." She pulled out her own tablet, bringing up a presentation she had clearly prepared with care. "I want to expand the program to 5 additional farms across different climate zones. Create a network of demonstration sites, develop farmer-to-farmer training programs, establish a data-sharing cooperative that benefits all participants." Noah studied the plans, impressed by their scope and thoughtfulness. "Looks promising, but why did this require an in-person visit?" Alex set the tablet aside, meeting his eyes directly. "Because before I move forward, I wanted to offer you a deeper role in the expanded program, not just as our first partner farm, but as a co-director of the entire initiative. Your practical knowledge, your ability to translate between traditional farming and technological innovation, they're invaluable assets that money can't buy." Noah stared at her, momentarily speechless. "Co-director?" "Alex, I'm a farmer, not an executive. I wouldn't know the first thing about running a program like this. That's exactly why I need you, Alex insisted. This can't just be driven by technology experts and business people. It needs someone who understands farming from the inside, who can speak the language of rural communities, who knows what questions to ask that people like me might never think of. What would this actually involve? Noah asked cautiously. Consulting on the selection of partner farms, helping design training programs, occasional speaking at agricultural conferences, some travel to the other demonstration sites. Alex leaned forward, her passion for the project evident. Most importantly, being a voice at the table when decisions are made about the future of the program. Noah gazed out over his fields, considering the magnitude of what she was proposing. This is a lot to take in. What about the farm here? My father? Lily? The farm would continue as our flagship demonstration site, with enhanced support. As for family commitments, we'd work around them. This wouldn't be a conventional 9-to-5 role. Alex paused, watching his expression carefully. I understand if you need time to think about it. I do, Noah admitted. This is unexpected. Alex nodded, respecting his need for space. There's something else I should mention. The role would come with significant compensation, enough to completely secure the farm's future, regardless of what happens with our partnership down the road. Noah's pride bristled slightly. I didn't save this farm just to abandon it for a corporate paycheck. I know that, Alex said gently. And that integrity is exactly why I'm asking you. But the reality is, this would require time and commitment from you. It's only fair that you be compensated accordingly. Their conversation was interrupted by the screen door swinging open as Lily bounded onto the porch. Miss Alex! You're back. The girl's delight was palpable. Did you bring me anything from Chicago? Lily, Noah admonished. That's not polite. Alex laughed, the tension of the moment broken. Actually, I did bring something. From her bag, she produced a small box wrapped in silver paper. It's a USB microscope that connects to a computer or tablet. I thought you might like to examine soil samples for your science project. Lily's eyes widened with excitement. Can I try it now? Please? After dinner, Noah said firmly. Why don't you go tell Grandpa that Ms. Vega is here? He'll want to say hello. As Lily disappeared back into the house, Noah turned to Alex with a rueful smile. You're spoiling her. She makes it easy, Alex replied. She has such curiosity, such enthusiasm for learning. Reminds me of myself at that age. Noah studied Alex's face, seeing beyond the polished businesswoman to the farm girl she had once been. You really do understand what this place means to us, don't you? I do, Alex said softly. That's why I want to help preserve places like this, not just as historical artifacts, but as viable, thriving operations that can support families for generations to come. Something shifted in Noah's perception of her in that moment. The wariness that had lingered despite their growing partnership finally dissolved completely. Whatever her business motivations, Alexandra Vega genuinely cared about the future of family farms like his. Stay for dinner, he invited impulsively. Dad's making his famous pot roast. And afterward, we can talk more about this co-director idea. Alex's smile was warm and genuine. I'd like that very much. Dinner that evening was relaxed and familial, with none of the business formality that had characterized their early interactions. Frank regaled them with stories of farming mishaps from his youth, while Lily excitedly described her plans for the new microscope. Noah found himself watching Alex throughout the meal, noting how naturally she fit into their family circle, how attentively she listened to his father's rambling tales, how patiently she answered Lily's endless questions. After the dishes were cleared, and Lily had been persuaded to go finish her homework before experimenting with the microscope, the adults settled in the living room with coffee. Frank's keen eyes had missed nothing of the unspoken currents between his son and their guest. So, he said directly, Alex wants you to take on a bigger role in this program of hers. Noah shouldn't have been surprised that his father had intuited the purpose of Alex's visit. She's offered me a position as co-director of the expanded Rural Innovation Centers. Frank nodded thoughtfully. Good choice. You've always had a knack for explaining complex things in simple terms. And you know farming from the dirt up. You think I should accept? Noah was genuinely curious about his father's perspective. I think you should consider it carefully, Frank replied. It's not just about the farm anymore, Noah. It's about what you could contribute to agriculture more broadly, helping other family farms survive these changing times. Alex, who had been silent during this exchange, added gently, Your father makes a good point. The knowledge you have not just about farming techniques, but about the culture and values of rural communities, that's incredibly valuable in shaping how these technologies are deployed. Noah looked between them, feeling the weight of the decision. I'd need to be sure the farm here wouldn't suffer. That you and Lily wouldn't feel abandoned. Frank snorted. Son, I managed this farm for 40 years before my stroke. I may not be able to drive the tractor anymore, but I can certainly oversee operations when you're away. And with all these fancy monitoring systems Alex has installed, you could keep an eye on things from anywhere. As for Lily, Alex added, the position would involve some travel, but nothing excessive. And the financial security would allow you to provide opportunities for her that might otherwise be difficult. Noah was quiet for a long moment, thinking. 6 months ago, he had been on the verge of losing everything: the farm, his family's home, his heritage. Now he was being offered not just financial security, but a chance to make a meaningful difference for other farmers facing similar challenges. I'll do it, he said finally, on one condition. Alex raised an eyebrow questioningly. That we keep it real, Noah explained. No corporate buzzwords, no selling farmers technology they don't need or can't afford. This has to be about practical solutions that actually work in the field, not just impressive demos for investors. Alex's smile was radiant. That's exactly why I want you involved. To keep us honest, to make sure we never lose sight of the real-world impact of what we're doing. Frank nodded approvingly. Sounds like a partnership that might actually work. Later, as Noah walked Alex to her car under a sky brilliant with stars, an unexpected companionable silence settled between them. The business proposition had been accepted, the terms agreed upon. Yet both sensed that something more significant had transpired over the course of the evening. Thank you for trusting me, Alex said finally, pausing beside her vehicle. Not just with your farm, but with this larger vision. Thank you for seeing value in what I know, Noah replied. Most people from your world would consider farmers like me outdated, resistant to change. Most people from my world never take the time to understand yours, Alex countered. They see statistics and market trends, not families and communities. The night air was cool but not cold, fragrant with the scent of growing things. Crickets chirped in the darkness, and somewhere in the distance, an owl called softly. City sounds and rhythms seemed impossibly far away. You should stay the night, Noah said suddenly. It's late, and the guest room is still made up. No sense driving back to Omaha at this hour. Alex hesitated, then nodded. That's very kind. If you're sure it's no trouble. No trouble at all, Noah assured her. Besides, Lily will want to show you her microscope discoveries in the morning. As they walked back toward the warmly lit farmhouse, their shoulders occasionally brushing, neither acknowledged the subtle shift in their relationship from reluctant business partners to something approaching friendship, with hints of possibilities neither was quite ready to name. The summer passed in a whirlwind of activity. The Collins farm thrived under the new technologies, producing the best yields in over a decade despite challenging weather conditions. Noah divided his time between hands-on farming and his new role with the Rural Innovation Center, helping to select the next wave of partner farms and develop training materials for agricultural extension agents. Alex's visits became regular fixtures in their lives, no longer strictly business, but not entirely personal either. She joined them for Sunday dinners, when her schedule permitted, brought books and educational games for Lily, discussed politics and philosophy with Frank late into the evening. She never stayed in hotels anymore when visiting. Instead, occupying the guest room that had gradually accumulated touches reflecting her presence, a spare charger for her devices, a small collection of books on the nightstand, lavender sachets in the dresser drawers. By early autumn, as the harvest machinery rolled through golden fields, guided by precision GPS, the transformation of the Collins farm had become something of a local legend. Agricultural journals published articles about their successful integration of traditional farming wisdom with cutting-edge technology. Extension agents brought groups of skeptical farmers to tour the operation, with Noah patiently demonstrating systems and answering questions. On a crisp October evening, the Collins family hosted a harvest celebration, a tradition Noah had abandoned years ago when finances grew tight, now revived with new purpose. Neighbors, agricultural officials, and the technical team from Vega Innovations gathered in the barnyard, where tables had been set up and strung with lights. Local musicians played, children darted between hay bales, and the abundance of the harvest was shared through potluck dishes that combined century-old recipes with fresh ingredients from the Collins fields. Noah found himself constantly aware of Alex's presence throughout the evening. She had arrived early to help with preparations, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt that would have been unimaginable on the sleek executive he had first met. Her hair was loosely braided, her laugh came easily, and she moved among the local farming families with genuine interest rather than corporate networking skill. As twilight deepened and the celebration continued, Noah joined Alex at the edge of the gathering. She stood watching Lily and several other children attempting to bob for apples, her expression soft in the glow of the string lights. "Quite a change from last winter," Noah commented, offering her a cup of hot cider. "When you were digging my car out of a snowbank?" Alex's smile was warm with the memory. "I never could have imagined it would lead to all this." Noah gestured toward the thriving farm around them, the happy gathering, the technologies seamlessly integrated into the traditional operation. "Neither could I. You've changed everything for us, Alex." "We've changed it together," she corrected gently. "This partnership works because it's truly collaborative. Your knowledge is every bit as valuable as our technology." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the celebration unfold around them. Several of the neighboring farmers who had initially been most skeptical of the Vega Innovations partnership were now deep in conversation with technical team members, discussing potential implementations on their own properties. "The program expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule," Alex noted. 3 new partner farms signed on this week. The training curriculum you developed for conventional farmers transitioning to precision agriculture has received tremendous feedback. It helps that we can show real results here," Noah replied. "Seeing is believing for most farmers." Alex nodded agreement, then hesitated before continuing in a more personal tone. "I've been meaning to talk to you about something. With the program expanding, I'll be spending more time in the Midwest. It doesn't make sense for me to keep flying back and forth to Chicago constantly." "You're relocating?" "The company headquarters?" Noah asked, surprised. "No, just me," Alex clarified. "I'm thinking of buying a place in Omaha, close enough to oversee the partner farms but still connected to transportation networks." "That makes practical sense," Noah acknowledged, unsure why the news affected him so strongly. The thought of Alex being permanently closer, rather than just visiting periodically, stirred complicated feelings he had been carefully avoiding examining. "There's something else," Alex continued, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "These past months, spending time here with you and Lily and Frank, it's become important to me, more than just a business relationship." Noah's heart rate quickened. "It has?" Alex met his eyes directly. "You know it has. I've come to care about all of you, especially you, Noah." The admission hung in the air between them, neither fully personal nor professional. Noah found himself at a crossroads he hadn't anticipated. 6 years of careful emotional isolation following Caroline's death had left him unprepared for the feelings Alex had gradually awakened. "I care about you too," he admitted finally. "But I'm not sure what that means for either of us." Alex's smile was understanding rather than disappointed. "It doesn't have to mean anything defined right now. I just wanted you to know that my commitment to this farm, to the work we're doing together, goes beyond business strategy." Before Noah could respond, they were interrupted by Lily running over to pull Alex toward the dance area, where the local musicians had started playing a lively tune. Alex glanced back at Noah with a smile that held both invitation and patience and acknowledgement that whatever was developing between them would unfold in its own time. As the evening progressed, Noah found himself watching Alex interact with his community, laughing with elderly farmers, discussing crop rotations with young agricultural students, teaching city-based technical team members how to properly shuck corn. She moved between worlds with a grace that seemed effortless, embodying the bridge between rural tradition and technological innovation that their partnership represented. Later, as the celebration wound down and guests began to depart, Noah and Alex worked side by side, clearing tables and storing leftover food. The easy rhythm of their movements spoke of a comfort level that had developed gradually over months of collaboration. "You've become quite the farm girl again," Noah observed as Alex efficiently stacked hay bales that had served as seating. She laughed, brushing straw from her jeans. "It's in my blood, I suppose. No matter how many years I spent in tech boardrooms, part of me always remembered helping my grandparents on their farm." "Lily adores you," Noah said more seriously. "So does my father." Alex's hand stilled on the hay bale. "And you?" The directness of her question caught him off guard, though perhaps it shouldn't have. Alex had never been one to dance around important matters. "I'm still figuring that out," he answered honestly. "After Caroline died, I locked a lot of things away, focused entirely on Lily and the farm. The idea of caring about someone again, it's unfamiliar territory." Alex nodded, accepting his truth without pushing for more. "Well, I'm not going anywhere. With my new place in Omaha, I'll be around regularly, whatever happens between us personally." The reassurance eased something in Noah's chest, a fear he hadn't fully acknowledged that admitting his conflicted feelings might somehow jeopardize the partnership that had saved his farm and revitalized his community. "Thank you for understanding," he said quietly. Alex's smile was gentle. "We both have our own timing, Noah. Some things can't be rushed, no matter how efficient the technology." In that moment, with the harvest moon rising over fields that had been in his family for generations, Noah felt a certainty that had been absent from his life for years. Whatever path lay ahead for the farm, for the Rural Innovation Center, for his tentative connection with Alex, it would be navigated with the same resilience and adaptability that had sustained the Collins family through drought and flood, boom and bust for over a century. And perhaps, in that continuation of legacy with new tools and approaches, there was room for personal renewal as well. Winter returned to Nebraska, though less severely than the previous year. The Collins farm, now equipped with solar panels and efficient heating systems, weathered the cold months with greater comfort than ever before. In the heated workshop that had once been a storage shed, Noah and Frank worked alongside technical team members to refine equipment designs based on the lessons of their first full growing season. The Rural Innovation Center had expanded to include 7 partner farms across 3 states, with Noah regularly traveling to consult with new participants. His natural ability to translate between agricultural tradition and technological innovation had made him an invaluable ambassador for the program, respected by farmers and engineers alike. Alex had indeed purchased a home in Omaha, a modest farmhouse on the outskirts of the city that she was gradually renovating to combine historical character with modern efficiency. Though her corporate responsibilities still required frequent travel, she had restructured her leadership team to allow her to remain based primarily in the Midwest. Her presence at the Collins farm had become so regular that Lily had cleared space in her room for Ms. Alex's things when she stayed overnight, which was now most weekends. The guest room remained officially Alex's, but the boundaries of her role in their lives had softened considerably. She helped Lily with science homework, discussed Frank's medical treatment options with his doctors, and spent quiet evenings with Noah planning the next phase of both farm improvements and program expansion. On a bright February morning, exactly 1 year after the blizzard that had first brought Alex to their doorstep, Noah stood in the newly expanded barn, demonstrating a modified irrigation controller to a group of agricultural extension agents. The device, developed based on his practical suggestions and refined by Vega Innovations engineers, allowed for more intuitive farmer interaction with complex water management systems. "The key is that it speaks both languages," Noah explained to his attentive audience. "It collects and analyzes data like any advanced system, but it presents information in ways that make sense to people who've been farming their whole lives." From the back of the group, Alex watched with undisguised pride. The transformation in Noah over the past year went far beyond his newfound comfort with technology. He had regained a confidence, a sense of purpose that extended beyond mere survival. The man who had once faced foreclosure with grim resignation now spoke with authority about the future of agriculture, his insights respected by academics and farmers alike. After the demonstration concluded and the visitors departed, Alex approached Noah as he organized his tools. "That was impressive. You've become quite the technology evangelist." Noah smiled, wiping his hands on a shop towel. "Never thought I'd be teaching people about software and sensors. My father finds it highly amusing." "Your father is proud of you," Alex corrected. "We all are." Their eyes met, and the comfort of their established partnership was momentarily charged with the undercurrent that had been developing between them for months. Neither had pushed for definition or commitment, allowing their connection to evolve naturally alongside their professional collaboration. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Noah said, gesturing toward the window where snow was lightly falling. "Since you got stuck in that blizzard and I had to dig you out." "Best wrong turn I ever took," Alex replied with a smile. "Though I'm not sure you'd have agreed at the time. I was suspicious," Noah admitted. "Thought you might be some corporate raider with a fancy plan to take over struggling farms. And now?" "Now I know better," he said simply. "You've kept every promise you made. The farm is thriving. The Rural Innovation Center is helping other families like mine. Lily has educational opportunities I never could have provided on my own." Alex was quiet for a moment, then spoke with unusual hesitation. "And us? What about that part of the equation?" Noah set down his tools, turning to face her fully. Over the past year, they had carefully maintained a balance, close, but not too close, personal, but still somewhat professional. Both had been cautious for their own reasons, Noah still healing from his loss, Alex wary of complicating their successful partnership. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately," Noah said finally. "Particularly this morning, when I realized it's been exactly a year since you appeared in my life and changed everything." "And?" Alex's voice was steady, but Noah had learned to read the subtle signs of her vulnerability, the slight tension in her shoulders, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. "And, I think it's time I stopped being so careful," he said, taking a step toward her. "Time I acknowledged that what I feel for you goes well beyond business partnership, or even friendship." Alex's breath caught slightly. "Noah, let me finish," he said gently. "When Caroline died, I shut down that part of myself. Convinced myself that focusing only on Lily and the farm was enough. But this past year, watching you with my family, working alongside you, seeing your passion for what we're building together, it woke something up in me that I thought was gone forever." Alex's eyes shone with emotion. "I've been careful too, worried about complicating the partnership, about pushing too hard or too fast. We're both overthinkers," Noah observed with a small smile. "Always analyzing risks, calculating outcomes. Occupational hazards," Alex agreed. "So, what now?" Instead of answering with words, Noah closed the remaining distance between them. Gently, giving her every opportunity to step back, he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was a tentative kiss at first, a question rather than a declaration. But when Alex's arms slipped around his waist, drawing him closer, the kiss deepened into something more certain. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "I think that answers the what now question pretty definitively." Alex laughed softly. "I'd say so. Though your father would probably say it's about time." "He absolutely would," Noah agreed. "He's been getting me knowing looks for months now. Lily too, in her own way." "They're perceptive people," Alex said. "It's one of the many things I love about this family." The word love hung in the air between them, not quite directed at Noah specifically, but encompassing the life and people he represented. It was enough for now, a beginning rather than a conclusion. "I have something to show you," Noah said, taking her hand. "A project I've been working on." He led her through the snow to a small outbuilding that had once been a tool shed, now renovated with new windows and a sturdy door. Inside, Alex was surprised to find a cozy office space, a desk positioned to overlook the fields, bookshelves filled with agricultural references and technology manuals, comfortable seating, and state-of-the-art communication equipment. "What is this?" she asked, taking in the thoughtfully designed space. "Headquarters for the next phase," Noah explained. "A place where farmers participating in the program can come for training, where the technical team can work when they're on site, where you could work when you're here rather than commuting back to Omaha every day." Alex turned to him, touched by the consideration behind the project. "You did this for the program?" "I did it for us," Noah corrected. "For what we're building together professionally and personally. A space that bridges our worlds, just like our partnership does." Alex moved around the room, running her fingers along the desk, noting the details that reflected both agricultural practicality and technological functionality. "It's perfect," she said finally. "Both sides of who we are." "That's what I was hoping for," Noah said, watching her. "A place where we don't have to choose between tradition and innovation, between your world and mine, where we can just be ourselves, building something that matters." Alex came back to stand before him, her expression open and unguarded in a way he had rarely seen. "You know, when I founded Vega Innovations, I had this vision of transforming agriculture through technology, but I always pictured it as something abstract: systems and data and efficiency improvements. And now?" "White," Noah prompted when she paused. "Now I see it's really about people, about families like yours finding ways to preserve what matters while adapting to a changing world, about communities supporting each other through transition, about connections that transcend professional boundaries." End quote. Noah nodded understanding. "From where I stand, the best innovations have always been about people first. Technology is just a tool. It's how we use it, how we shape it to serve human needs and values, that makes the difference." Alex reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. "Is that why you built this space? As a symbol of how technology and tradition can work together?" "Partly," Noah admitted. "But mostly I built it because I wanted to create something that reflected what I hope for our future, whatever shape that takes. A future where you're not just visiting the Collins farm, but where you have a permanent place here." The implications of his words were clear. Not a proposal, not yet, but an acknowledgement of possibility, of intention, of a path forward together. "I'd like that," Alex said simply, squeezing his hand. "Very much." Outside, snow continued to fall softly on fields that would soon be planted with the next season's crops, on monitoring systems that would help nurture those crops through whatever challenges arose. On the farmhouse, where 4 generations of Collins family history was now intertwining with a new chapter neither Noah nor Alex could have anticipated a year ago. Winter, which had once threatened to take everything Noah valued, had instead brought the most unexpected of harvests, a partnership that saved not just his family's land, but restored his capacity for connection, for growth, for a future beyond mere survival. And as they stood together in the space that bridged their worlds, both knew with certainty that this unexpected harvest was only the beginning. The seeds planted in that long-ago blizzard of innovation meeting tradition, of technological vision meeting practical wisdom, of 2 souls recognizing in each other a shared commitment to things that truly matter would continue to grow and flourish through seasons yet to come. The story of the struggling farmer and the stranded entrepreneur had evolved into something neither could have imagined that snowy night. A reminder that sometimes the most promising futures grow from the most unexpected beginnings, and that the greatest innovations aren't found in technology alone, but in the human connections that give that technology meaning and purpose.